Hi everybody, and welcome to Hex Token channel. Woohoo! 2,000 subscribers, yeah! That's how we roll, and that's a really cool achievement. So big thank you, as I said in my community post today. Thanks very much, and I do appreciate the support. Onwards up to 2,500, then 3,000 and beyond. It's going to be pretty exciting. So let me just check the audio. Audio seems to be pretty good, so we're going to get into that. And nice check there, getting a little bit better. Now I've got a poll in the house, of course, a poll today. When do you think PulseX Sacrifice will launch? We've only got a couple of days left. 28th of December, 29th of December, 30th of December, 31st of December. Let's see how we get on with that as well. So many parts of UTC time is in the morning at the moment, so there's still a long way to go on the 28th, so that could be a decent call. 29th, 30th, 31st, we've got 7 votes in there already. Very, very cool. Get into the chat, folks. You know how we roll. We want to just have a lot of fun here. Get into the chat. If you've got any insights, anything that maybe I don't talk about, or maybe that you've found out, maybe on some other chat, get into the chat there. Share the wisdom. We love that for sure. And it's all about community and pretty much sharing this journey onto awesome world domination, as Richard Hart takes us there with Pulsechain, PulseX, and Hex. Of course, it's going to be super duper good. And also the futures looks super bright with that roadmap after that. So it's going to be pretty cool. Let me get into some of the comments there. We've got Mark Carnito in the house. Woohoo! Let's get ready, says Mark. Absolutely. And Mark's got get rich. Yeah, get rich time. Pump the bags. But like I said, get rich is the end game. But we can definitely enjoy the journey. It's just like going for a traveling. Maybe you want to go to an ancient Colosseum, but of course, getting there, walking along the roads of Rome, getting there is just as thrilling. So very, very cool. Alex Casey, there's not many days left until now. Yeah, absolutely. Good to see our moderator in the chat there. Good on to see you, Alex. Glad you can make it. And hello, fellow Hexo Pulsechainers. Hexers. Nice. Hexo Pulsechain Hexers. I love that, Alex. Nice one. And John Gibson's in the house. Projects that have said they will launch on Pulse. Haven't heard much talk about that in the community. Yeah, well, there are projects, of course. Some of them are already pre-launch on other chains and say that they're going to airdrop over to Pulsechain. Some of those. We've obviously got well-known ones like Trust Swap, Pulse Loans, things like that that are definitely working on there. I imagine that there's many of them doing it, but there's definitely a topic for the future. I'm going to be covering that. There's something on my radar there, John, as well. So CR says, would the best way to sacrifice a pulse be liquid hex? That's generally the accepted token to do because it pumps, it gets hex off the market, and it ultimately pumps hex long term, as well as you get a good USDC price as people, if the people, more people than less people sell, do that, then you're going to get that. At the moment, of course, we do have a lot of stakes coming out until the 2nd, and of course the Pulsechain, PulseX, sacrifice will help with that. So there is a bit of give and take, but ultimately I think overall that is the kind of the general conclusion. The hex is the best way to do it. Just like in Pulsechain, the vast majority, I can't remember the exact number, it was 97, 98, something like that. It was a pretty big number, was hex that was sacrificed at the time. But then of course we could see Pulse chain sacrifice, we could see a little bit of sell-off after the start dates, maybe on day 3, day 4. That's what we saw last time. That history may not repeat itself. So we've got to take that into account as well. Sometimes it can do the opposite. So we've got to be careful there, how much we take from that for sure. JVS says, win Lambo, absolutely. And Hex Force says, what's up, sacrifices? That's right. I like that, Hex Force. That's the attitude. Nice. And Learn Crypto's TV says, watching from Roswell, New Mexico. I love that. I love that. Roswell, that's very cool. So welcome, Learn Crypto. And PulseX Flex, that's right, PulseX Flex. I like that. As well. So there's going to be a lot of you PulseX flexing next year, that's for sure. And Michael says, g'day from Thailand. Hey, Michael, good to see you out there. Thailand, as I said last time, beautiful, beautiful place. Hope you're enjoying yourself there. Learn Crypto says, wait a minute, I jumped around here. Got a double up there on Learn Crypto. Got that one. Alex Casey says, 50% sacrifice in Hex day 1. And then the rest with the more Hex or USDC, depending on which way Hex price goes. That's a really good point, Alex. So that's something maybe everyone can reflect upon. 50% sacrifice Hex day 1. and then the rest with Hex or more USDC, depending on which way Hex price goes. So you can hedge your bets there. If the Hex price goes down or goes up, you can hedge your bets there with the USD or some other token for sure. Now, what we're going to get into is today, obviously the title sort of got it all. The title of our video is pretty much we're going to cover PulseX sacrifice tokens. A lot of people ask that. Obviously, not all you pros that have been out there, been through the Pulsechain sacrifice, but for a lot of people that have come into the space since then, which is a ton, tens of thousands really. This is really talking about sacrifice tokens. Sacrifice is going to be any day now, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st. We're expecting it before the end of the year as opposed to beginning of January. But ultimately, Richard will make that call. But he has been consistent about it being the end of the year, with the exception of when people are getting some paychecks. I'm not actually sure how that came to him, but nevertheless, he's going to try and accommodate both sides of the year from the looks of it, because earlier is better. So we're going to look at that. Best one to sacrifice, well, we've talked about that already a little bit there, talking about Hex, but we will explore that a little bit more. And as Alex pointed out, if the price of Hex goes down through the sacrifice, maybe on day 2, 3, or whatever, if it does do that, then if you've got other tokens that you're willing to sacrifice that hold up a better USDC value, then that's the way to go. Bit of a hedge there. Obviously, if the price of Hex goes up, then you could sacrifice a bit more Hex. Now, obviously, we're going to talk about a lot of the scenarios that happen there. That's just a bit of an opening there. We're also going to talk about the best token performance 2022 polls. We've got 2 polls for that. One from this channel, Hex Token channel, and one from Hexologist. So we're going to talk about both of those polls. Those should be interesting to all of you out there as well. Really is good information when you see this general sentiment from a lot of the retail investors. Some of those retail investors can be quite large as well. We saw that in yesterday's poll. We get a decent amount of people that are looking to sacrifice over 50,000 US dollars worth. So that puts them up in a bigger category for sure. Up in that sort of dolphin shark area, definitely is the way to go. And we're also going to have a look at the Hex price watch. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoy some of these topics. We're going to go through those. All the links will be in the video description for the most part. Afterwards, after the live stream, I've got a couple in there already, but I'll make sure that they're all there in case you want to go back and double back on some of the stuff. So very, very cool. Don't forget the poll, folks. We've got 31 votes already. Very nice. What do you think? When do you think, PulseX Sacrifice will launch? 28th, 29th, 30th, or 31st? And so far, 31st is the hitting date, 55%. So we'll see how we get on towards the end of the live stream in about an hour's time. So let's get into it. I'm going to get back to the chat here. We're going to catch up on the chat and then get into the main content. So I'm going to jump from hex.com. You know how I roll. We start from the beginning. This is the working product over 2 years, hex.com. The first certificate of deposit on the blockchain, but not ordinary blockchain, certificate of deposit, I should say, but supercharged. And of course, fantastic APY potential, circa 40%, depending on whether there's penalties or not and how long you've actually staked for. You can get in excess of 40%. Very, very cool. Here is the price of chart at Hex, 29.16 at the moment. And of course, that was interesting after the close of the day. We were sitting at just over 30 cents for the price snapshot for day 756. And we're on day 757 now for Hex. And we got a little bit of sell-off after there. But what happened? Probably a good chance that those were stakes that came out. We've got stakes coming out quite large all the way through the 2nd of January at the moment. So possibly some of those, we always can get some of those after the day close. They claim their stakes. Maybe they've been a long OG. Maybe the US dollar amounts too much for them, and they have to sell some off and then transport that back. Maybe they're going to buy themselves a 4-wheel drive or something like that. Maybe a Tesla. Who knows? Maybe a Lambo. Who knows what they're going to do? But what time they sell it, of course, no copy on Pulsechain, and of course, no Hex to sacrifice for the PulseX. No big bags. Short-term gain. They could have made an even bigger gain than what they already made, even if they are a Hex OG, assuming that is true, of course. I'm just theorizing there with some of the ones that do come out at the time. It was pretty interesting coincidence, though, I thought. So, yeah, cool. Let's get into some of the chat here. Don't forget to welcome everybody. Subscribe, like, share, hit the bell. We just hit 2,000 subs. Pretty awesome. Onwards to 2.5, maybe 3,000. Let's keep going. 2022 is going to be rocking it. And we're going to be talking about Hex, Pulsechain, and PulseX all the way, plus everything else that's coming. Let's get into some of the chat here. I'll leave the price on there. Actually, I'll turn the price into the hourly chart just so it looks a bit more detail. This is the red candle I was talking about that got sold off and that was interesting after the close, of course. And so there may have been, like I say, a few stakes coming out there. Is probably what I expect. We've got Rune Skies in the house. I say Rune Skis, but Rune Skies in the house. Hey, mate, been waiting for you to come on. Want to put you on the spot here, lol. If you were to go in hard on one coin, Pulsechain or PulseX, knowing the tokenomics of PulseX, which token would you go with? PulseX in the short term is my call. So you got me there, Rune Skies. There we go. That's a hard call at the moment. So PulseX to sacrifice, and then to pick up, use those big pumps on the PulseX in the first couple of months to buy a lot of Pulse tokens is what I would do, switching into that. So that's generally my strategy there. I want to accumulate Pulse is a big play, but I definitely see the big X's in PulseX. And I think they're going to stay up much longer and last longer and perform better than other DEXs as the AMM bot harvests all those coins across all those different DEXs on Ethereum and stuff, and that's going to be huge. We're going to have thousands, potentially thousands of trading pairs, maybe 6,000 up to that amount, maybe somewhere around that mark in PulseX. Could be ginormous. And you know, how many of those will have most of the value? Let's take the 80-20 rule. Maybe 20% have 80% of the value, something like that. That's just a rule of thumb. But I think it's going to be pretty massive. We know that all the yield farming people jump over people that are not even Pulsachins, not even Hexkins. They're going to flock in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, into that section. So it's going to be pretty big. Let's put it that way. So I think that's probably a fair play. But everyone's in the medium long term, everyone's going to be chasing down that Pulse token. That's for sure, because they drive each other, right? They drive Pulse drives PulseX, PulseX drives Pulse value. It's just it all works together. And of course, the more people that come on there, they're going to drive Hex as well, PHEX and EHEX as well. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Yeah, EHEX is going to be, we'll talk a bit more about that later, but good question. John Gibbons says, how much notice do you think Richard will give the sacrifice phase? I'm guessing 31st with 2 days notice. No, he's kind of given everyone a lot of notice, so I think it could be quite short, but we'll find out, John. It's not many days to go. I think he'll just possibly open the site. He'll just open it. Say, here we go, we're live. The site will get updated. We're going to check that out live while we're doing live stream, of course. That's just the way we're going. Peter Green says, if you have a lot of Hex stakes, would it be wise to merge the end stake one to go in the sacrifice and take the hit? Well, that's one of the plays, Peter. I mean, you're right on there. So do you think that it really depends on what your penalty, your big payday, if you got a big payday in there, your penalty, the amount of risk reward you're willing to take. But hey, if PulseX does go, you know, 50x or something like that, then you're obviously going to beat out even your awesome returns on your Hex stakes, depending on the nature of those stakes, of course. So you must be very careful with the penalty, in-stake penalties, the big paydays that you got in there. So you got to be, you know, careful there. So it's something to think about. You are then gambling in a sense, but I think PulseX is going to be pretty huge. I think the probability is pretty high. So you're always playing probability. The timing is the key. So you may have some deferred timing depending on if we get, say, for argument, at the moment I've got the earliest date for Pulsechain, PulseX is early February. But what happens if it's another month? So you just got to take into account that you may have that deferred gratification. But I definitely think the yield farming is going to be massive as people flock into that. Obviously, Pulsechain is not fully operational yet, so you're taking on operational risk as well as PulseX. So just take that into account, whereas you don't have that with your Hex stakes at the moment. They are locked and loaded. So there's a few things to take into account there. Hopefully some of those considerations that I just mentioned are helpful to you. That's probably the way I'd put that, but definitely you could beat the X's. Obviously, you're going to get a copy on Pulsechain. So if the price goes up, you're going to get a copy with your volume. If the price goes up, you're going to get a certain amount of X's from the price potentially. And of course, so you may have made 4x or 5x or 6x, but are you going to make 50x or 100x on the PulseX within, you know, 3 to 6 months? So those are some of the questions you've got to ask. No one really knows the answers to that, although we know how yield farming performs pretty pumpalicious, really. So definitely something to think about. And like you say, you're talking about a moderate position, maybe one stake. That's something you could weigh up, but I'd just be careful around those risk rewards that I just talked about. Hopefully that's of some use. Robo says, watching from Western Australia, putting the farm on Richard Hart projects. That's putting the farm. I like that. Yeah, that's right. So some people are talking about, you know, I've talked to some people actually about, you know, talking about the selling houses, investment houses. putting into. That's how much they're keen they're on. But once again, nothing on this channel is investment advice, just infotainment, just giving some of my opinions as we all share the journey as we go ahead there. Big Hex Hexagon, you the man. Keep up the good work. Hey, I appreciate that, Big Hexagon. Very, very cool. And Alex Casey said, would never do emergency unstake for this. You are losing both Hex and PX before the fork. Try to find other ways to get funds to sacrifice. Yeah, and that's kind of where I was heading. I'm more conservative, a bit like Alex is, and so I wouldn't be touching any of my stakes personally. But I do understand that's the potential opportunity to try and beat the X's. But you're comparing one awesome X that may happen, and I think got a lot of probability about it, but compared to X's that you've got in the bag already, and I wouldn't really play with that myself. So good comments there from Alex. Rothko says, can you do those calculations? Most would advise not to. Yeah, that's right. So I agree there, Rothko. Cal says, I wonder if there will be an ETH bridge built in on PulseX app. Yeah, I'm not sure PulseX app, but you mean PulseX. There is a bridge. There's going to be a bridge. So we're looking at, hey, 29 cents. Hey, 29 cents. I like the charts that's moving around there as well. So let's actually move the chart a little bit there. Might go 15 minutes. Let's put it on that. There's a 15-minute chart. How's that look? Just a bit better. But we're still in the trading range, right? As I've been talking about, 27 to 31 cents with a little bit edge way either way. We're still sitting in that there, and yeah, it's still looking pretty good at the moment. So yeah, so Ruth the dev's running the bridge. Apparently that's already been testing on Pulsechain testnet 2.0. So that seems to be okay. So what's it going to have on it? I'm gathering it's going to have Hex and ETH and Pulse and possibly stable coins. So that's what I'm imagining it's on there. I haven't actually seen what the list is. So if you know what the list is, let us know in the chat there. It's been one of my outstanding things I've been supposed to follow up there. So I will try and do that. Ramon Carrillo says he already gave us notice for the end of the year. That's right, Ramon. Very well said. Yeah. I think he's just going to launch it and it's just going to be up just like I think last time it was from memory. And JR's USMC says, like and subscribe. I reiterate those sentiments. So appreciate that. Definitely like, subscribe if you're new. We do lots of try and give lots of insights on this channel and share information from the community. So it's pretty good. Hope you enjoy the content there. Francia is in the house. Hello, Hexkin. Hey, good to see you, Francia. Very cool. I like the name. That's a really cool name. Alex K says, Cal, there will be ETH bridge, no doubt. We just don't know if it will be open from day one of launch or a little later. That's true. So we don't know exactly if it's going to be. It is part of the minimum viable product. So if we jump over to the minimum viable product here, we've got go.hex, a Uniswap front end, PulseX, and a bridge. And my understanding is that these two are being tested on Pulsechain testnet 2.0, Pulsechain testnet 3.0. We're expecting probably PulseX and the AMM bot to run on the Pulsenet testnet 3.0. Expecting that to maybe be short. So I'm guessing at the moment that's about 2 weeks, and that would be the primary target from the devs on that one. Of course, there are all different teams apparently running each of these, so they're all working to get that minimum viable product. Richard did say it would be a gradual release, and that is what is happening. We've got, as I say, Uniswap front end. We've played around with that a lot on this channel, and maybe some of you at home have done that as too. And of course, the bridge apparently is already. Richard mentioned that from one of his last videos that was running as well. So definitely going on there. 29 cents, folks. That's where we're at. And DHexagon says it's going to be epic. It's going to be really awesome. Great, good to see you in the house, DHexagon. And Rothko says 2022 with the year of the heart. Hey, I like that. That's a really good catchy one. Might use that one of my video titles there, Rothko. And Craig waiting in the house. Does he ever sleep, this guy? Hey, Craig, good to see you. And big shout out. Hex is the way channel was on. And of course, Craig Waiting was on there. Big shout out to you guys over there on Hex is the Way. Check out Hex is the Way channel. I actually might add it to the recommended channels on here, and that's really cool. They've been doing some great work over on that channel. Alex K says, Craig Watting, his name is Superman, aka Ninjas the Buzzy, Unlimited Energy. Hey, Alex, that's true. So yeah, that's my moniker online is Superman. So very, very cool, aka the Energizer Bunny. That's what they also call me as well. So nice one. The Hexagon says, won't the harvesting cause gigantic run? up in PulseX due to buy and burn. It will cause a lot of that, but that's all going to be done. A lot of that's going to be done before going live to stop gamification, is my guess. And then, of course, the trading volumes are going to be insane. The burn straight out of the gate is going to be ginormous. Really will be impressive. But you're right, DHexkin. Marcos says, do you think that PulseX has a 10,000 X potential? Yeah, well, I think Richard was talking about 14,000 X on that. So I'm not going to argue with the genius on that one. Metal says, I'm sacrificing ETH. Yeah, nice one, Metal. That's a good one. It's definitely one of the popular ones. We're going to check all that out, of course. And we've got Francia's in house. Hello, Hexkin. And did I jump back? Hopefully I jumped. I think I jumped one there. And Javier says, when people talk about merging and staking, yeah, burn, yeah, that's right. So you got to be very careful with that strategy. I understand the big X's, but once again, I'd rather have X's in the bag, and you know you're going to get double up as well. And of course, once there's more Hex Sacrifice, there's going to be less Hex around, and we know we've got big Hex whales coming into the market through HexScale, through Funding Gym and other people that are coming around the space. So it is Hex is going to do pretty well, I imagine, as well through this process. That's why I love it. It's kind of perfect. I'm going to show you the perfection of the sacrifices. Richard's timed them pretty perfectly. The Hexkins, who's selling Hex now? And we probably thought it was some stakers that came out. I haven't checked that, but just seemed to happen. That red candles should happen after the day closed. And then when a couple big, because some of them are all quite decent amounts, they're all, couple 100,000 each, or 100,000, 150,000 each. It was like bam, 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 bam. So I don't know how many of the same dresses though. Rothko says, for laughs, I hope it's another 6 months until launch. Longer pays better. Yeah, I don't hope it's that long. John Rickman says, any news on HexScale? That could be enormous with how small the liquidity for hexes. Yeah, John, absolutely. And that's what I was just talking about, HexScale. Kinetics is going to be doing a live stream, I think, within the next 12 hours. So definitely watch that on Discourse Syndicate, I think it is. And we might get some insights around HexScale on that. So definitely something, go and you can go and book yourself in for that. I'll be watching that for sure. They did say the end of December. But of course, legal stuff and paperwork sometimes can take longer than you expect, especially around these financial products. So we might see that end up being into January, maybe hopefully in the first 2 weeks of January. But then they've got some decisions. We're going to talk about HexScale a bit later in the live stream. So Hex is the way, is in the house. Very, very cool. How far away am I here? I just lost myself on my commentary there. Hex is the way, says, glad I finished streaming so I could catch you. Hey, Hex the way. Yeah, I did delay my live stream. I saw that you were on, so I delayed my live stream so that you could, hopefully I wouldn't cross over there. Funding Jim says, woohoo, let's go. Hey, Funding Jim, always a pleasure. Salute to you, sir, and great to see you in the chat there. And D Hexkin says, Wales posted another TikTok Twitter message with 3730. So from Wales, okay, sweet. I guess it's Wales only. Very, very cool. And Nate Dog says, yo, I have swapped out half or all non-ERC 20 tokens into Hex, ready for the sacrifice. Nice, Nate Dog. You sound like you're going hardcore. That's pretty cool. Javier says, I thought you to coordinate this. Hex is the way. Yeah, nice one. Yeah. I did actually see Hex is the way on live, so I delayed my going live for that. John Gibbons says, we should have 59 likes already, guys. Yeah, get in there, folks. Subscribe, like, share, hit the bell. Obviously, we just hit 2,000. Really, really cool. And I'm just going to try and catch up on these comments here. Javier says, I usually see Hex Token later in the time than this. Hex streamers will show who is live when. Yeah. I started doing them a bit earlier just because it kind of a little bit better for me. But I will do some later ones as well. Thanks for the shout outs. Says Hex is the way. No, all welcome. Craig Wayne says, cool, man. Hex is the way. Is knocking out videos. Check them out too. Good stuff. Yeah, so definitely check them out. I'm going to put them on the recommended channels on this site after the live stream, so I'll do that. Rothko says, just subbed. Hex is the way. So many channels out there. Love it. Yeah, that's right. Really, it's getting exciting. Getting passionate people in the community stepping up, and the army for Hex, Pulsechain, and PulseX is just growing massive. Really is cool. Alex Casey, subscribe to Hex is the way. Nice one. There's a couple of subs there. Hex is the way. And Craig, very cool. Michael O'Keefe says, where will be the best place to watch the live prices at launch? Well, we're going to wait to find out about that. I imagine someone will get on to, we're waiting for a PRC list, I guess is what you're talking about. Hopefully some index will come out around that too. That's a really good question, Michael. Sandy B says, hey there, Hex Token. I'm glad I'm up to watch the live stream. Great stuff. Hey, Sandy, great to see you in the chat. And yeah, I enjoy it too. So right back at you there. Craig Wayne says, I'm just another brick in the community wall. Together we are rock solid. Absolutely. I like that. So that is so true. So true. We are all bricks in the wall there. Reminds me of that old classic song, Bricks and All. I think Matty Allen will be streaming launch. Yeah, I think that's true. Matty Allen's got like 5 different live streams queued up at the moment, so it's pretty exciting. Peter Green says, bought some hexagon-shaped dumbbells and put Hex logos on the end of them. So everything Hex pumped, I pump. Right, so I like that. And Craig Wellington hit 2K on the way to 20K. Good job, Hex Token. Hey, appreciate that, Craig. Yeah, onwards and upwards. And finally, we got to Cal. And Cal says, thanks for the bridge info. Will be interesting if there is a fee to the bridge and fee money goes to incentive token. Yeah, it's going to be, depends on, I guess, if it's bridging over from Ethereum, it depends which side you're on. I guess is going to be the case. So cool. There's got through a lot of the comments there. Very cool. Let's get into some of the stuff here, what we've got. So we're going to go, this is Pulsechain. Now, obviously, Richard said it's going to be like similar to Pulsechain Sacrifice. So we've got the Pulsechain details. We know this, 10,000 points to $1. It's going to be the ratio, and there's going to be bonus. Imagine that the bonus is going to be probably like the volume multiplier, unless he says otherwise. So, between 1 and 2.5x. First 5 days, it'll be flat for the 10,000 to 1. Then an increase in the rate. Now, I don't think the rate's going to be 1.05 because he said he wanted it to be less severe, and he also wanted a smaller mercy period. So I'm not sure how long that's going to last, because actually I was hoping there wouldn't be any mercy period, just a short period. So we're going to find out whether it will be 19 days at the moment. That's the thing. He says it's going to be similar length. So 90 days is what we've got at the moment. And of course, we're waiting to see all those details confirmed, but that's kind of where we're at the moment. So, first 5 days, get in early is pretty much what you should probably do, generally speaking. And obviously, you can speculate on the price of Hex over that period. Maybe the same thing won't happen as it did last time, where it started getting sold down, pushing the US dollar values. That's what counts as the US dollar value that you get in at any point in time. So that's pretty much it. So obviously, the volume multiplier last time was if you did about $10,000 worth, you got about 1.1 multiplier on top of the base amount, which is 10,000 points to $1. And so I'm expecting possibly a lower factor, not 1.05, maybe 1.02 or something. We'll see what he puts in there. And of course, here the last 3 days, day 17, 18, and 19 were all flat rates of, so they were outside so day 1 to day 16 was the volume multiplier, and of course that's that 1 to 2.5 bonus, and then of course day 17, 18, 19 were flat 1.75, and that's when the origin account came in and it took up to like 85% of the supply. And as I said, that kind of acts as it does in Hex, like the Reserve Bank in the system, to regulate stuff a little bit. So that's pretty much it. So that there is a quick summary of that. So then we, of course, from the actual pulsechain.com site, we went to pulse.info. That was the link that we were in. And of course, all you have to do is connect up your wallet, and then you select the network, and then you can find the tokens that you want to sacrifice and the addresses that you need to sacrifice to. I think only 1 or 2 of them had a memo. So depending on what the token or coin you're using, you may need a memo. I think there was only 1, maybe 2 of them that had a memo. But you'll see it once you connect and select the network that you're wanting to sacrifice. But we're going to go through all the different ones in this live stream, so it should be cool. So I'll just quickly read some of the comments here. Marco says, when the liquid loan sacrifice comes around, will you participate? So yeah, I've been a little bit, haven't done a lot on that, but apparently liquid loans is going to be mid-January, is my understanding for that one. So yeah, I'll think about it, Marcos. Think about it. I like to stick with Richard Hart projects, but I will think about the liquid loans ones. But I probably if I do, it would be a small amount. It's probably at this stage if I did it. Michael O'Keefe says, I was really asking about which platform will be showing prices straight away. Well, the only one that I know of is, there's 2 of them. It'll be how to Pulse site will have it on their index of prices, and of course I understand that Nomics.com was going to support Pulsechain prices on their site. So those are the 2 that I'm thinking straight off the bat there, Michael. So hopefully that answers you there. Michael says, oh, my mistake, probably listings on How to Pulse or somewhere someone will build a coin ranking site for Pulse. Yeah, that's the third thing, right? So how to Pulse will be on theirs, no doubt, without a doubt, shadow of a doubt. On Nomics is what we understand, and of course, it's very likely that people will build third-party sites as well for PRS, of PRCs, 20s, and Pulse, etc. So yeah, very cool. The Hex sense, how does the volume multiplier work? Really is based on the US dollar amount that you put in at any particular time, and then you get ranked, and then that's how that pretty much works. We're going to quickly look through that a bit later there, DXkin. Chris Jacob says, may have been touched on what is a good amount of sacrifice for X. Oh yeah, we talked about even if you did, $100, it could end up being very good for you. Obviously, if it goes 100x, then $100 just depends on how long you stay in and wait for those X returns. A PulseX might be a little bit different. Maybe the big X is up front, but I definitely think it's going to perform well over the long term, being the biggest yield farming opportunity in the history of crypto. So something to think about. Brownie says Nomics already has a Pulse chain, says Brownie. And Hex Kizzo says, hey Wisp. And Marco's got Richard Hart is going to build a coin ranking site after he's done with Pulse. Yeah, that's on the roadmap too. Well said there, Marcos. Hex says, how would you feel about NFT project exclusive for the Pulse chain network? I'm working on one, just need hype, lol. Yeah, well, definitely there's going to be lots of projects, NFT projects on there. Obviously, they're all getting copied over from Ethereum as well, the 721s and all the other different types over there on the Pulse chain. Take a complete guess. What price do you think PulseX will be in 6 months? 10x, 100x from launch. Yeah, we've already talked about 50 to 100x within 3 to 6 months. Kind of where a lot of us have been thinking at the moment, but I haven't done much modeling around that. All right, let's jump into the actual sacrifice. So this is what we did in Pulse Chain. We'll probably have that looking similar on Pulse Info. So this is Pulse Info. It's currently blank. So this is where we're expecting it to be. There's also pulsex.com. So pulsex.info, and so that's kind of where we're expecting it to show up on pulsex.info, and that's kind of equivalent to this Pulse Info site, which is what we use to sacrifice, connect the wallet, and find the address that we want to sacrifice to, and sacrifice from your wallet. Now, I understand also Staker app, you'll be able to do transfers for certain coins from there, the ones that they currently support, Hex, I think US dollar and ETH, I think is what they've got. USDC, I should say, I think is what the 3 that they've got. Maybe they've got 4, but I think those 3. That looks like Steph was talking about that on the Sunday Staker app show, and that you'd be able to sacrifice just by using a transfer function. So that's something from there. Let's get into the tokens. Of course, many of you were probably wondering what tokens they are. So we're going to get into that. So there was the Avalanche, Binance Chain, Binance Smart Chain, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Cardano, Dogecoin, and EOS, right? So take all those tokens, coins, and then of course we had the Ethereum chain, and it's got the biggest list. We've got the OX Protocol, 1inch, Aave, Amphi4th, Axie, Badger, Bancor, Barnbridge governance tokens, so all these type of tokens. Celsius, of course, there's some big ones there, Link, Compound, Crypto.com coin, and Curve DAO token. Now, I did see that Crypto.com coin was complaining about, I think, about coin market cap de-ranking them or something. They got upset about that. So, hey, welcome to our world, Hexkins, and know all about that. So, I'm not surprised there to see them complaining about that manipulation on there. Now, of course, onwards from Ethereum. So this is what we got down to Curve DAO. Also on Ethereum, we've got obviously DAI, Fox, Fay, USD, Frax, Graph token, Hex, of course, Hex, on Ethereum, and Maker. This will be the main one, of course. Maker, Paxos Gold, Paxos Standard, Ren Bitcoin, Shiba Inu, Sushi tokens. So people asked about meme coins. Well, you got Shiba Inu in there if you want to classify that as a meme coin. Obviously, it's a pretty big one, but that's in there. Sushi token, Synth USD, Synthetic Network token, NS Tribe, True USD, USD Circle, USD Tether, and Uniswap, Uni token. You've got that. And finally, for Ethereum chain, you've also got Wise token. So some people thought that might not get on there. That's on there. Wise token, Wrapped Bitcoin, Wrapped ETH, Wrapped USD token, and Yearn Finance. So Richard also mentioned that there's likely to be some others that weren't in the Pulse chain sacrifice. So we're looking forward to see about those. So very, very cool. Let's get us. We've also got Ethereum Classic, Litecoin, and Monero. So you'll basically select on, once again, you just would select on the site when it has the Connect wallet select the network, and you'll be able to select any of these networks to get the address that you need to send it to from your wallet. So that's key. And there we are. So we also got Polygon Matic. A lot of people ask about this. So we've got Aave, Celsius, Chainlink, DAI. Hex, of course, is on Polygon Matic. There's about 6.9 million Hex sitting on Polygon. And of course, that's the second layer of Ethereum on the Polygon Matic network, and Hex is on there, 6.9 million. So if you, obviously it's not going to get copied on the Ethereum chain. You have to get that back to the layer 1. If you're holding Hex on there, you'd have to use maybe the Matic bridge to maybe sell it down into ETH or something like that, USD stable, and then send it back to over a bridge to Ethereum, or you can try and use some other fancy ways of doing that. And of course, you can always buy back Hex when you're back on the Ethereum chain. You know, best times to do ETH gas fees are typically Sunday 1 to 3 a.m. in the morning, UTC time that is. So that's very important to remember. So you want, if you got Hex on there on Polygon, you might want to get it off there or sell it and get that currency back on onto another chain. But you can actually sacrifice that if you don't want to. If you're not going to use it, you can sacrifice from the Polygon network using your Hex. But of course, if you're just going to leave it there and you want to get a copy of your ERC20s over onto Pulsechain, then you're not going to get it by being on the Polygon. Because that's on a second layer network, so just take that into account. Quick swap, of course, is sacrificeable. Tether USDC, USDC coin, Wrapped Bitcoin, Wrapped Ether, Wrapped Matic, and My Matic are also sacrificeable on the Polygon Matic network, which is a second layer network of Ethereum. Just take that. All right, so let's get on to number 7. You can also sacrifice Ripple and Stellar Network and Ethereum and Zcash. So those are the ones you can also sacrifice. Let's get down to the last one, Tron. Good old Tron. I know you guys love Tron. Go on, just admit it. Put it in the chat. You love Tron. All right, so Tron, just stablecoin, Tether USD, True USD, and USD coin. So these are the ones we had on Pulsechain. And of course, Richard said there'll probably be a few others. In fact, I think he said he knows there's going to be a few others added into the list. So there'll be probably a few other options when the actual update site goes. And I'm expecting it to be on Pulse Info and, of course, PulseX.com. I should say PulseX.info and PulseX.com sites that are currently blank at the moment. We're expecting it to go live anytime. So let's refresh these sites. Maybe it went live while we're talking. It might have done that. So we're going to check that right now. No, it doesn't seem to be updating there. Let me update. So this is what you can do. You can keep clicking it, and maybe you'll be the first person to ever see it get populated. But at the moment, it's not populated. So there we are. So that was the list there, folks. That is the way it went on the ones that you'll be able to choose. Let me get on to, I'll just read some of the comments and we'll go to the next step of this. So we looked at what you can sacrifice, but we're going to look at what people did sacrifice. We did cover this in yesterday's live stream, but we're going to look at it again within this bigger context of sacrificing, which could be any time now. Don't forget to fill out the poll, of course. When will the PulseX sacrifice start? Will it be 28th today, 29th, 30th, 31st? Let us know. Rick Cannell says, thanks for the Staker app info for sacrifice. I was wondering about that. You're most welcome. Definitely, yeah, you can go to the Staker app Sunday show. Hoddle Dog and Gerardo the two big YouTubers that host that with Steph and the team. So definitely check that out. Where in New Zealand are you, mate? Luke, I'm in New Zealand. That's about as much information I give away about New Zealand, but that's where I am at the moment. So I know there's quite a few people from New Zealand watch this live stream. Some of them from Queenstown, Kaitaia, and other places. So big shout out to everyone there. Craig Whaling says, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Absolutely smash that subscribe button. We're onwards, upwards. We're going to head towards 2.5, then 3,000, and well beyond. Someone said 20,000. I like the sound of that. Sounds good. All right, Alex Casey, sacrificing from Polygon. Great idea. Saves you both transaction fees and bridge fees. Absolutely, Alex. Very, very cool. And of course, like I said, there's about 6.9 million Hex in there. I think there's 4 trading pools, but the biggest one I think is the Hex USDC. I think is the biggest one on Polygon, and it's actually trading at a premium. So it's actually trading slightly higher than Hex on ETH at the moment. So when I last looked, and sometimes it can lag and sometimes it can lead the ETH Hex price. But it's going to be interesting about the arbitrage opportunities. Obviously, there are some, especially depending on what volume you're going to look at buying. But obviously, there's more swing with the lower liquidity in there, more swing in the price movement. But it's interesting to see the difference and that how Hex on ETH versus Hex on Pulsechain will be when you look at the Polygon one. So there's always a bit of a price disparity, generally speaking. So it's interesting. Alex says, "I love Tron for USDC transfers on the cheap." That's right, Alex. That is true. It's got some. It's definitely got some good benefits like that. Peter Green says, "If you have Wise staked on Wise Network, will it copy over to Pulsechain?" I think it will, Peter. I don't think that Richard originally talked about a couple of projects not being added on, but I think at this stage, I think that he's just going to. I think they'll get copied over, is why I imagine, especially where they're on the sacrifice there. But we'll see. Craig Welling says Richard said Theta might get dropped. Wasn't much sacked last time. Guess we'll see when the list drops. That's right, Craig. So you are right. I remember him saying that. Yes, so Theta might get dropped off that list. But yeah, good point there, Craig. Sandy Beach says, "Lol, I sacrificed some leftover Tron from Pulse. Lol." Hey, nice one, Sandy. I like that. And Alex K says Hex on Polygon now also trades on a Uni V3. That's really interesting. Good insight there, Alex. Alex K says, "So if you are buying Hex, use 1 inch instead of quick swap directly." Okay, good insight there, Alex. Appreciate that. And DHexkin says, "Does community sacrificing Hex have an immediate change in liquidity pools?" It will reduce the circulating supply because the origin account has not sold any. So it's just basically, like I said, I think it just acts as a like the Federal Reserve with money share supply and returns and stuff like that. It's previously it had an impact on the market cap, of course. Of course, on the daily Hex daily update, we always have the figure that always includes the origin account. Obviously, a bit similar to the way Bitcoin includes Satoshi's wallet in some ways, but obviously the percentages are very different. Craig Wading says, "I have like 600 Hex on Polygon. Finally, I can just sacrifice it instead of trying to bridge. Not really enough to spend the fees to bridge." Yeah, bridge the Matic bridge. There are a couple of tricks you can try and do. I won't go into this on this live stream, but if you're using the Polygon Matic bridge, then the fees can be on the little higher side, especially with the smaller amounts. So you just got to take that into account. You don't have to accept it, of course. You can just get a quote from the bridge on Polygon Matic. And see. But good point there, Craig. Hex is the way. I am in the philosophy that we see Hex parity soon after Pulsechain mainnet, even Hex on Polygon, which you can't stake, is at parity. Yeah, there's always well, Polygon's always traded a little differently to the ETH price. I think Richard's pretty much in the camp that Pulsechain Hex will probably be at a premium, bit more, a bit higher than ETH chain. But we'll see what the whales decide. The whales could decide it differently, because I think that's driven from a retail point of view. And I definitely think there's going to be a massive retail influx, obviously, into Pulsechain, PulseX, and ultimately PHEX or Hex on Pulsechain. But like I say, I think that can be countered through arbitrage, as you kind of way you're pointing it out, potentially, but particularly by the bigger players in the space. And we're also already seen Kinetics sort of talk about that with HexScale and stuff like that. So it's definitely in play. I think it kind of makes a lot of sense to me. So there we are, folks. Those are the tokens. Let's have a quick look at the breakdown that we had. And of course, these were, we had the Hex Ethereum here was like almost 1%. We had obviously Hex was huge. USDC was pretty big. And it's going to be interesting to see what all this USDC pairs are used for, and maybe they'll use to back up some of the pools there on Pulsechain. It's going to be interesting to see. It's all been moved away, of course, except for the DAI and stuff like that. So, BTC, 18 million. We had BSC, BCH, all pretty big in the sacrifice amounts. Litecoin, XMR. Matic. I think Polygon, some of that will probably be a bit bigger than last time. But then, of course, how's that go as well? So we're going to see what that was. So gives you a bit of an idea of what the numbers were. Very cool. And we talked about some of the stuff here. What people sacrifice. Someone asked earlier, what's a minimum amount? Well, we had quite a lot of people. 4,000 people do like $10 And I think quite a few of the small accounts were people trying to get, Genesis wallets. In other words, people are trying to get multiple wallets in case there were airdrops. And we've already seen, some projects already talk about airdropping to Genesis Pulsechain holders. So if you have got done a little strategy of getting multiple wallets through the Pulsechain sacrifice, then it's likely you're going to get lots of airdrops from different projects. Obviously, you got to find out whether those projects are all legit, so you're not interacting with scam contracts, which could end up taking out all your crypto. So you got to be careful around that as well. So definitely something to take into account. But hey, with this, like I say, we had a lot of people doing $100, $500, and if you get big excess returns on that, even a small amount can be worth a lot. We've seen it in X already, in other projects which have these big X returns. But definitely, $1,000 we had kind of this amount, about 7,700 people, give or take, and a lot of these figures don't include the mercy period, but through the official launch period, sacrifice period, they're pretty good indicators. 2,500, 5,000, there's all around a couple of thousand people, 3,000 to 4,000 people, 10,000, of course. That's why I say it's like a pretty decent amount, and of course over 50,000 there. Yesterday we had on live stream, we had a lot of people talking about sacrificing over 50,000, so definitely a lot of people in the retail, large retail holders can do that sort of stuff up the top end here. But how many millionaires we're going to get into this PulseX is going to be interesting. How many we had 5 over 10 million, if you remember. How many of those we're going to get this time? So we jump over to Pulse Leads. As we looked at yesterday, we had these 5 million sacrifices, big whales, over 10 million, all the way up to 30 million, and then we had all these people with millions of dollars sacrificing for Pulsechain, and we had up to 75 here, and that's just on Ethereum stuff, doesn't include a lot of other chains, like the 80 million on BTC, stuff like that. So it's going to be pretty fascinating to see that for sure. Let me get in here. Alex got a couple comments. Hex is the way. Hex on Polygon is just wrapped Hex. Can be bridged 1-to-1 back to ETH. PHEX will be a different version, only bonded by liquidity. Yep. And DHexagon says her cash is giving Pulsechain holder 240 coins each. There we are. So DHexagon is pointing out one of those airdrops. So yeah. Sorry, I just got my cat running around here. It's probably going to cause trouble. So yeah, there we are. So there's airdrops already for Genesis holders. I expect to see a lot more of them, but you're gonna have to be very careful about them because you need to know whether it's legit, as I say, or not legit. Don't just think, I've just won the lotto 50 times because 50 projects have airdropped. You've got to get some due diligence around those airdrops, but definitely, I'm sure there'll be some good value up for grabs along the way there. Potentially. Obviously, Hexagon's benefited from a lot of projects, uni airdrops, I think 1inch, at least 2 or 3 others, big ones that were out there too. Just can't remember what they all were right now. All right, so very cool. So we're looking for the refresh here. I'm just going to refresh PulseX.com. Come on. It'd be really cool if it happened live, right? That'd be really cool. And PulseX info, bam. No, nothing there. We're obviously waiting for official announcement from Richard. That's where everything starts from, is getting Richard's official announcement. So that brings me to Richard's comments at the moment. Richard had a couple comments. I talked about this on the daily live feed, and of course that was there's not going to be a publicly callable buy and burn function at launch. It's too hard to do. So that is taken off that list that we talked about yesterday. The other thing was Uniswap routing occurs off-chain, not on-chain. It's computationally complex. You can trust the public to route properly either. They could set up their own evil route and cause the contract to buy from that. Thus, you can't have a publicly callable function to do it easily. Now, I thought it was a pretty cool feature, but yeah, get where he's heading with that. The solution is to do it similar to how others are doing it without a publicly callable function. I think that's probably a better thing in some ways. So with those reasons, so nice. So that's about it from Richard, but they were pretty interesting insights about that. So very cool. Now he has got some updates on the tweets and replies. He does reply to some people on certain things. I'm not going to bring that up at the moment. All right, let us look at StakerApp. If you haven't got StakerApp, like I say, it looks like they will be able to do sacrifice on StakerApp. The link to StakerApp is in the video description if you haven't used it. Now you can plug in your MetaMask wallet on Ethereum into a view only mode on there and see all your stakes and stuff like that. It's really cool. Definitely get it. Just about over 100,000 users. Everyone I know uses it. It's pretty cool. The other side, of course, you can also set up a smart wallet and you can use that to do stakes. And you can also participate in their $8,700 a weekly giveaway for people that stake 5,505 days. So you can also participate in that. I think the last winners have been up in the minimum winners have been like 40,000 hex stake for 5,500 for 5 days. Going to be the minimum winners, and it's about $300, $400 around that mark. So definitely something to look at. But they also going to, it looks like they allowed they facilitated sacrificing via the Staker app with the smart wallet on for the Pulsechain sacrifice, and looks like they'll be doing it for the PulseX sacrifice, particularly for those tokens, as I said, the Hex, Ethereum, and I think it's USDC. So definitely something to think about there as well. Let's have a look at, we're going to jump over to the polls now. How we're doing 50 minutes in, we're doing pretty well, folks. So this is the first poll I want to look at on the price. So this is on Hexologist on the 27th. Which Richard Hart coin are you most excited about? And here we had PHEX 19.7% and a Pulsechain 50.5%. So very interesting what people are thinking. And then PulseX 24.4%. And then Bitcoin 5.3. So he had Bitcoin on there instead. So PulseX there, 24%. So that's interesting. So Pulsechain, as I said to you, one of the strategies is people are going for possibly the short term. People are thinking big X returns in PulseX, and that's why the sacrifice is so interesting. And then to switch that into Pulse on the live. The only counter that for me is that I think that there's going to be quite a lot of whales buying Pulse early on. Particularly if there's any major dips, because there might be a bit of fight on between the top people that sacrifice for Pulse. So if we go back to these top whales here, I think there might be quite a bit of fighting in the house here. Some whales that sell, or big sharks you might call them, that sell might get bought up by others that are intending to increase their position and become a dominant player on Pulsechain and trying to imitate the big ETH holders on the ETH chain, is my gathering, especially when you think it's going to be the biggest airdrop in history, the biggest yield farming in history, and the way AMM bot's working, it's going to be crazy. Pumpamentals are just madly good. So we'll see. It's going to be super cheap and super fast, of course. So that's going to be interesting to see that play out for sure on there. All right, so that's an interesting counterplay there at the moment. So very cool. Pulsechain 50%, 24 on PulseX there. There was 2,849 votes there, 2,849. So pretty good amount of people there. Anyway, so we're going to jump on to the next poll, of course. Nicholas says, fine, I caught you live. Hey, Nicholas, great that you can make it. And Nicholas says, should I sacrifice my Hex or stablecoin? So yeah, well, we talked about Hex. Hex is pretty good. Now, if you do it early, probably Hex is pretty good. As Alex said earlier, you could probably, if Hex price does decline over the PulseX sacrifice period, you could have some USD stable on there, and then lock in that USDC value, because ultimately that's what you're after, is to get the highest USDC value. And of course, if you've got a little bit of Hex on the side, if the price does go up over the sacrifice period, you could get that in. Now, typically the first 5 days, if it's similar to Pulse sacrifice on Pulsechain, the first 5 days, the rate is 10,000 to 1. And then, of course, the volume multiplier on top of that, if that's what Richard's talking about being the bonus. He did say it was going to be similar to the sacrifice, Pulsechain sacrifice. So I imagine that most of those features are the same. The only thing I think was possibly not the same at this stage, based on what he said, is the penalty rate of 1.05 could be a lot less, or he may use some other mechanism around that because he wants it to be less severe. And of course, if it has a mercy period after the PulseX, after 19 days, say, if that's how long it's going to be, I'm hoping it's going to be shorter, 14 days or something, but whatever, if it's 19 days, which he's indicated is going to be similar, then that would be a lower rate as a penalty. So we'll watch out for that. No one really knows. We're just speculating. We don't know if it's going to completely repeat what happened to Pulsechain, where the prices sort of start tapering off after the first 3 days, or what there. We're just going to wait and see. Marco says, wouldn't the sacrifice cause for a lot of it to go out of circulation, in turn causing the price to go up? That's exactly right. So when people sacrifice Hex, benefits the globally everybody, because it goes off the market, and it goes off the market on Hex and off the market on Pulsechain, because the origin account, pretty much your sacrifice, or the sacrifice account that you're sacrificing into, will keep that off the market. So
That's the logic there. So you benefit from, everyone benefits from people buying Hex up and getting a good USDC price when Sacrifice opens, and then of course that Hex gets off the market on Hex and off Pulsechain. So there's less Hex on both chains, and that's why we talked about circulating supply being, if we net off the origin accounts, then we're talking somewhere between 4 and 5%, probably on the lower end of that. Well, I was going to say it would be on the lower end of that, but we've had a lot of stakes coming out over the last last 2 months in particular, and we've still got about another week of those stakes coming out to the 2nd of January. So circulating supply somewhere in that ballpark. The lower the better, of course. That's what we're trying to get that circulating supply lower and lower and lower, because ideally 2.5% would be fantastic, because we've got all this buying demand coming in as well, from HexScale and other activities like funding Jim's running with his liaisons, as we call it, and there's lots of other people out there doing some other stuff. There's lots of other big funds out there, and big investors out there as well. As we saw on Pulsechain Sacrifice, we had 5 accounts over 10 million. We had 75 with over 1 million. So there's a lot of pretty decent money out there. That money's only going to get bigger in time, right? So as we head in 2022, the money's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Just like what happened with Bitcoin. Now obviously you've got a huge market for Bitcoin. And just gets bigger and bigger. And of course, the first thing we'll be targeting is, hopefully $1 trillion market cap for Pulsechain, and then who knows what else. We could have $1 trillion market caps for everything, So PulseX, who knows? It's going to be pretty mad. We'll see how we go on with that. Chris Peace says, "Let's go, Brandon." Good one, Chris. Let's go, Brandon. Marco says, "Hex that." The Hex, that is. Yep. Thanks for the info, says Nicholas. You're most welcome. And Dave Strotman says, "Will we be able to yield farm a PulseX pair for the incentive token?" Yes, I believe that should be there. Anything that you can possibly think of can be paired up, and that one seems like one of the most obvious. Hex James says yes. Yeah. So there we are. That's Hexo's one. I thought it was a pretty good poll. Let's jump over to this channel poll on here. Hex token. We had 100 when we started the live stream. Let's refresh this and see how many we've got now on the poll. Let's go into this, and so this is 3 hours ago. We got 141 votes so far. So which coin token do you think will perform the best in 2022? Slightly different question. And we've got eHex, Hex on Ethereum, 6%. PHex, Hex on Pulsechain, 9%. PLS, 38% is the case, and we've got PLX, 46%. So this is just a little different question from here. What coin are you most excited about? Is a different question, but they are kind of related, kind of sentiment related. But here we've talked about which coin do you think will perform best in 2022. And interesting, we've got PulseX here, 46%. PulseX yield farming incentive token, token not yet named, 1%. And of course, I actually think that's going to do pretty well. I think so, like these are people's thoughts there, but I actually probably will have I probably have some different percentages. If I voted, I'd be voting a little differently on here. And I think that there'll be a few surprises around here. But I think in the short term, PulseX is probably a decent call and probability. Trying to play probabilities, educated guesstimates, or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, that's some interesting numbers there for sure. 46% PulseX. Now, will it become a self-fulfilling prophecy? People think this is the way it is, and it will become that way because people are going to follow up their thoughts with decisions. Obviously, you've got to match that with economic power as well. But yeah, definitely think that PulseX is going to do super well. We already talked about the fact that there could be, in yesterday's video, we talked about there could be $450 billion worth of buying power per year if the AMM bot and all that is as successful as we think it potentially can be. And that assumes the current market conditions. So not the top of the bear market. Definitely not the not top of the bull market, not the bottom of the bear market, but right now, those conditions that we've got right now is kind of where it is. So it's going to be fascinating to see that. That's a pretty cool poll, actually. So hopefully that's given you a bit of insights there to what people are going for. I think there'll be a big switch into Pulse, but that may be countered by if there are big whales out there looking to get even more Pulse, and particularly on any dip. So if the price rises at the beginning and then falls or rise at the beginning and then falls, and I try to do it in the right direction, then people, the big whales might come in and get the big buys if there is any correction like that. And we see that so typically in crypto, that you get big price rise. We saw it in the, after Hex launch. We saw the 5th of January 2020. We saw on the after the big payday. It was what does triple was it 0.003 of a cent, and of course that got bought up as well. And of course we've seen it through all the price cycles. So was it 10 price cycles, parabolics that we've had so far? I've got to make sure it's the right direction. Parabolics we've had so far, we've seen a lot of those as well. So it's gonna be interesting. I definitely know I want a lot more Pulse, but I also want more Hex. I want more Hex, and I want more PHEX. So is it greedy to want so much? I think so. I think it's good to be in all four. You certainly hedge your bets that way, and all four of them are going to do super well. So I don't think that's an issue. But short game, a lot of people are calling PLX for short game there as well. Let's see what people in the chat are saying about this. Dave Strom says, "Will there be a single PulseX farm then?" Now, will there be like a token reward? So you put in, you get your PulseX locked in, like in the syrup pools on PancakeSwap, and then you get the incentive token, or you get I don't know. We'll find out. There's not going to be PulseX for that, but there might be possibly a yield farming incentive token for it. It's definitely something to see. Yeah, DHEX can see it's voted for on the DAO. Yeah, and that's what I would expect to see. So DAOs, if you're holding PulseX, you're going to be having the power over the DAO, which is going to determine which peers the incentive token is applied to. And so that's going to be pretty important. It takes away quite a bit of power manipulation from liquidity providers, particularly the mercenary ones that come in, as I talked about earlier, coming from all these other dexes, they've been racing over. So everyone was on QuickSwap, then people jumped over to Atrium, and then people were jumping over to Crow and all other stuff. These yield farmers that jump, and so this is sort of behavior. And of course, PulseX is going to be the biggest yield farming in history with the biggest airdrop. So you're going to see a mad number of people jump over there just for that alone. And like I said, it just includes maybe the more long-term investors as well. So it's going to be pretty awesome. Mike says, "Hello, Hex Token. Thanks for streaming today." Hey, Mike, it's a pleasure and great to see you in the chat. And I hope you're having fun with all this too. Javier says, "Is that last new coin going to be an airdrop?" It's going to be paid out like an emission token. The amount and the pair is going to be decided by the DAO. So not exactly sure the fine details of that, but that's kind of at the moment what they're going to propose. Obviously, the PulseX team probably running that is the way I see that, because there's also a certain amount of the tokens go to the team to run, just like in PulseX. It's going to be a certain amount that going to the team to probably run things there. Joey says, "Is the last?" Joey says, "Or another sacrifice." No, it's going to be. We're not sure how that's going to run. We're waiting for a bit more details on the incentive token. Mike says, "Do you think we will bounce of 28 cents as support, previous resistance?" Oh, we're going to find out. Let me jump over to the price here. So I'm going to leave it on there. 29.25 cents at the moment. I'll probably leave it on there while I'm talking. It's probably the best way. And Alex K says, "We need to know how much." Sorry. Do you think we're going to bounce at 28 cents as support, previous resistance? Yeah, I think the chart's looking pretty good to get to break that 32.5 cent mark and get us into the 33 to 38 range. And I think that certainly the first day might do that. I am like in anybody. We could see that pushed right through, or we could see a bit of a sell-off like we did last time in the Pulsechain one. So we're waiting to see how that's going to play out. But at the moment it's been trading in the range quite comfortably. We've got a lot of stakes coming out. But like I said, if it's and this is getting to my next point about the PulseX sacrifice is like perfectly played out, and we're going to talk about that next because that kind of leads into that point. Alex K says, "We need to know how much economic energy goes into PulseX sacrifice. That may affect the potential performance." That's absolutely true. So that's the way. That's what's somewhat different, is how much it goes into PulseX to give us that initial valuation. Because we'll have that, and that would be more important valuation in some regards than Pulsechain from my view. So good point there, Alex. X is the way says, "Luna, no sacrifice for the reward coin." That's right. Dave Strootman says, no sacrifice for the incentive token, just PulseX. That's right. And Nicholas says, "I can see Hex PLS being top 5 by next year for sure. Yeah, it's going to be pretty fast too, I think there, Nicholas. I think it's going to ramp up pretty fast. Dave Strotman, basically Richard set up the master stroke there. Some people a little concerned about the yield farming, the dual token strategy of having PulseX and the incentive token. But I think the way he's designed, I think that's pretty good. The way he's done that, so I think it'll be fine. Having been involved in yield farming, and I know Alex has done a lot, and I'm sure many of you out there have done a lot of yield farming out there. Dave Strotman says, I think we'll break 30 cents tomorrow once Richard announces a sack date. Yeah, I'm pretty confident too there, Dave. Even a 32.5 actually, I think we could break out. I think the sacrifice is actually going to will cause a rise rather than a fall. Hex James is Richard Jesus, says Hex James. No, he's not, that's for sure. Hungarian Hexkin in Thailand. Do you think the Pulsechain network will be as easy to gatekeep for the coin ring sites as influencers once people realize they're getting free coins on Pulse? It's going to be very difficult to gatekeep. The economic energy that's going to go into Pulsechain is ginormous. You're talking about the system state copy of Ethereum. It's going to be faster and cheaper. You're going to have the biggest airdrop in history. You're going to have the biggest yield farming in history. You've got a dual token system. It's going to be massive. You've already got a lot of big committed people in the Pulsechain sacrifice that are already going to be in there, and so yeah, it's going to be pretty massive, and it's going to take people shock and awe people really. A lot of those people out there. Richard's about to drop, a huge magnitude of fundamentals that the market's not seen before. It's going to be pretty mad. Positive Short says, is Hex also getting 1 to 10,000 coin allocation, or is that for USDC? So it is for $1. So everything's in $1. Whatever crypto you sacrifice, that's the US value of that at the time that you sacrifice, and so it's 10,000 points per dollar. So if the price of Hex falls the following day, say it goes from 30 cents down to 25 cents, the person that sacrificed the Hex at 25 cents is going to get a lot less points. If you're sacrificing it at 30 cents, you're going to get a lot more points. If you're sacrificing it at 50 cents, you're going to get a lot more points. If you're sacrificing it at 15 cents, you're going to get way less points because your 15 cents, whatever your Hex amount they're putting in, is going to be worth less when you sacrifice it. So that's what that's the point there. DHex said the second token has a tapering inflation like BTC, and is Hex better to sacrifice USDC, or is it the same thing? This depends on the dollar. It's that if Hex price is higher, then you're going to hire a USDC amount sacrificed. Obviously, if you're sacrificing USDC, that doesn't change in value. That is what is the being measured in. It's being measured in USDC sacrifice. So if your Hex price goes up, you're going to have more USDC sacrificed when you sacrifice, but USDC amount's going to stay the same. So if you got in your mind, I'm going to sacrifice $5,000, and you're not worried about the volatility, you just sacrifice USDC. Or if you want to try and think that the price of Hex is going to go up, you're going to get even more USD sacrifice, then you sacrifice that, and of course you'll get more points. Every dollar of USDC that you sacrifice, you're going to get 10,000 more points. Is the way to go. And obviously, if there's a volume multiplier, that's that bonus component I believe Richard was talking about, then you will get a bonus multiplier. Obviously, you have to be pretty big to get the high bonuses. So last time you had to be, this is just rough guides. These aren't the final numbers, but you would have to, 10,000. You have to get pretty big points for that. These numbers aren't right, but you have to get pretty big points for doing that. Like I said, I think $10,000 is like 1.1 multiplier, but obviously the $30 million sacrifice was, pretty much 2.5 on top of your base points, which is that 10,000 points to 1. So very important there. All right, we're going to jump on to we're at 1 hour and 7, so we're doing pretty well here. Mana says, and would you sacrifice as soon as the phase opens? Yes, that's generally the guidance is to sacrifice early, is probably the case. Now, of course, if you were using Hex and Hex price did go up as opposed to down, then obviously, you would have done better waiting for later. But generally speaking, early is best. Early is best. And Richard also said that on his live stream. Earlier is better too, so that's probably the case. So let's just have a little recap. This was the Pulsechain sacrifice here back in July. Let me just get rid of this here. So you can see this was back on the 15th of July all the way up to about the 3rd of August. This was the 19 days that we had Pulsechain sacrifice. What happened was the days before, we got this big price rise here, and I think it was like 160, 170%. Let me just have a look here, just from these days. So yeah, that was about 125%, sorry, from just those couple of days. And then of course, the first 3 days were the best rates. Typically, this is for Hex we're talking about, so the majority was sacrificed for X. Then you saw it was the first 3 days were the best. Then the price started getting sold down. Now, some people blame whales, of course, and particularly this day, you might argue, on the 20th, it was a big day in terms of signaling a price decrease. The volume candle there was massive. So you have to take that into account. And then, of course, it got sold down all the way through, almost through to the last days. And then we had a bit of a rise on the final day. So once the sacrifice was over, then we started getting the price rise again, and then dipped again, and then we had our big rally. People getting excited about Pulsechain, but of course Richard was saying, 2 months delay, 2 months delay. So that was, then eventually the market started coming down, especially as some Hex OGs started to sell the price down. Some completely emptied their bags as well. So that's how that played out. Obviously, we had the Mercy Sacrifice period, that blue dotted line. And of course, Pulsechain testnet did start on the 29th of September, and of course that ran for 77 days. It overlapped Pulsechain testnet 2.0, which started on the 12th, and it's currently run for about 16 days so far. I estimate that potentially, it's just my estimate, I don't know how long they're going to run it for, but I've just got it running through to the 15th at the moment, and then overlap with Pulsechain testnet 3.0. So if that does start, say, mid-January, then that would be, and Richard did say it was going to be most likely short, then that would be, I've just got 2 weeks for that. That's when they would probably run, if they haven't, they're probably running already on the testnet 2.0, just we're not aware of it. But if they're running Pulsechain, PulseX on testnet 3.0, because Pulsechain testnet 0, it's going to have 3.0 is going to have the AMM bot run, and that was by Richard on the 16th of December. So that looks like to be the case there. So that would push out, like I say, that would push out the earliest date for Pulsechain, and PulseX launch would be early February. That's the earliest date that I see at the moment, based on having the fact that we have to have a Pulsechain 3.0. This could actually last longer, of course. This could push us into March if depending on how long this is. Now, this section here, of course, is for me the most important, because the Pulsechain testnet 2.0 has the validators in it, and that's really the big extra code that's in there, obviously, because Pulsechain is going to be a proof of stake rather than some hybrid. I talked about this yesterday, with the 2.0, they've got these phases. Staking started December last year, and then of course they've got the sharding, and then they've got the to dock ETH.10 to ETH 2.0. No one really knows when that's going to happen, and even if it's going to be that effective on costs and speed. And I doubt it. I doubt that it's going to quite deliver there. And I think the team almost doesn't give the full confidence that that's going to be the case as well. So it's going to be interesting. That actually plays well for Pulsechain. I've got a big question mark there, of course, because with these sort of area here is unknown. So that's just the best fit at the moment, and we'll adjust that as we get more information. Because originally, remember, I had the Pulsechain starting at the earliest around the 7th, the 6th or 7th of January. But obviously, once we got this information about our testnet 3.0, then that got pushed out there. So that's kind of best to guess them at the moment. Obviously, PulseX Sacrifice coming up. HexScale, of course. Maybe we'll get an update about HexScale from Kinetics on this next live stream. Definitely check that on Discourse Syndicate, I believe that is. That should be one not to miss. If you might have a few little drops there of information, hopefully we do. Looking forward to that. And of course, Funding Gym does terrific work out there, just liaison with a lot of very important networks of wealthy investors. So I think a big shout out to Funding Gym. Going to be one of the, I guess, historic figures inside Hex Pulsechain in the future. I bet your bottom dollar with that sort of work. So very nice. I do understand that they're having a bit of cross pollination there too with the HexScale. And these are just two big groups, of course, of people. Obviously, Funding Gym deals with Kiyosaki and all that network. And once people get in, they start spreading the word amongst those big investors, and it just starts to grow. HexScale, of course, is going to open it up to private investors. Apparently, they've got $1 billion network in there already with investment advisors, and once they reach those financial targets, they'll also switch on to publicly listed trading. So maybe like the Nasdaq, and then you get the big individuals can do IRA investing. They get the big institutions able to access through there because it's got custodial. It's got strict custodial protection. They don't actually have to deal with any of the hex stakes because they're going to get all this money. Money comes in, and then they're going to stake it out for 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and of course they're going to be able to trade in and out via shares, just as you do with something like Grayscale for Bitcoin, stuff like that. And that was been extremely successful, and it works pretty well. Now, I understand that Kinetic is going to change some of the way that's done a bit better to perform better than what HexScale has done, particularly with the discount to market stuff. And so I think that's going to be pretty positive for the whole. These are big, potentially big funds to take Hex, Pulsechain, and all that to the next level. Really, it's going to be pretty interesting to watch that play out. And that all takes time. And like I say, hopefully we'll get some insights from Kinetics around that in this next live stream or two as well. So looking for that. Now, obviously, it takes a little time to ramp up. They're on the phones, talking to the brokers and whatever. That will ramp up. But the other thing, of course, they're wanting to get Hex as cheap as they can, right? Because obviously the cheaper they can, the better. But there's not a lot of Hex on the market. What we think with today's snapshot was maybe 122 was 122 million Hex, I think, was on Uniswap amongst all the 4 pools, USDC and ETH. And of course, for the big money, that's not a lot. And so even if they use Matcher 1 inch and that to buy through over the pools, or at least put in some orders, buy orders in, and then the market can hit in those orders, and they can slowly accumulate over time. That's the way they might do. I'm doing all these actions, but hey, that's the kind of thing that they might do. As that they've got to try and pick up a lot of stuff. There probably is some room for an OTC desk as well. Might be another forms of things that might occur as well, over the counter desk, because if you've got this big money taking this whole ecosystem to that next level, you need to supply. Like I said, the circulating supply of Hex is actually reducing, except for the fact that we've got these last phases of big stakes coming out. We've got about a week left from that. Then we've got all that stuff. The sacrifice is perfect. This brings me into the next point, is that the sacrifice phase, I've got that in red here. So if that's a similar period, that 19 days, if that's all the same, we're waiting for Richard to give the final information on this. But if it does appear out to be pretty much very, very close to Pulsechain sacrifice, as we've talked about through this live stream, then this here could consume a lot of circulating supply Hex out there, just like Pulsechain did. And of course, that gets off the market on EHEX, and also will be off the market on PHEX, making both supplies even more limited than it is today, because the people are going to have a sacrifice. And that's going to support the price majorly long term, and make it much easier for the big whales that come in to buy, to push the price up to new magnitudes of order, new X's return. So it's pretty interesting to see that. That's why I was a little bit, I think this is a little bit underplayed here, this stuff here on 2022. I think that these will do a lot better than people think, relative to the PLS and PLX. So that's why I was a little bit, we'll see how this goes. But interesting nevertheless. And I can definitely understand that all these are so pumpamental. The fundamentals for all of these look so good that people are really going to try and pick a winning horse. That's why my strategy ultimately is to have a piece of each of them. That's pretty much where I'm going to land. So hopefully that's of some interest to you. All right, hey, 99 people watching the live stream. We almost hit 100. That was pretty cool. So don't forget to subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, of course. And if you're watching this after the live stream, leave some comments. I do reply to every single comment out there, and that's very cool. JV says Alex Saunders fight. Yeah, that's right, Alex Saunders. Good on Alex Saunders. And that candle. Let me jump back to the price here. Yeah, 22.3 cents at the moment, so very, very cool. And Steve Wright says, thank you so much. I love listening to your perspective. Keep the info coming. Steve Wright, Santa Barbara, California. Hey, Steve Wright, and big shout out to you in California there. And Sandy Big says, thank you for the live stream. Have a great night, day. Hey, Sandy, take care out there, and yeah, sleep well. But Nicholas says, but why does BitBoy refuse to talk about Hex or Pulse? Well, a lot of those big YouTubers are in a different frame of mind. A lot of them have come from the top 10, as I call it, the Bitcoins and stuff. They're promoting all that. They shill all of that stuff. Margin trading and get big. They got so many people watching the show that's how they clip the ticket, all that. So that's kind of the way I think about that. That's why they do. But once again, a lot of them, they take positions in it themselves. So they're still a bit nervous after 2 years. Can you believe it? 2 years, Hex has already proven itself. So they really need to just get with the program. But they like to do stuff that they can't make referrals off it. So I guess it's probably the way they would say. Jake says, I'm 100. Hey, Jake, nice. Hey, nice. We're not worthy, Jake. Very, very cool. Great to see you, Jake, in the house. Hey, we're up to almost 1 hour and 20. You know how I roll. That's kind of when I roll out of 1 and 20. So we're going to get and finish, close that poll. Hussein says great content. Hey, Hussein, appreciate that. And Hungary and Skin in Thailand, you have a great voice to be a race. That's a couple of people said that. Nice one there, Hungary. And Jake was, well, I was something. Jake says 100. You was 100. Yeah, very cool. Hey, let's get into. I'm just going to close off the. Let's have a look here. I'm going to go to turn off the poll. We're going to end the poll now. 133 votes in the poll in the chat. Nice, everybody. That is really cool. Let's have a look at the final results, folks. It's going to be in the chat. It's going to pop up there. Takes a second or two. Very, very cool. All right, so here we are. There we are. That's the final results there, folks. So we've got, when do you think PulseX Sacrifice will launch? 31st of December, 54% say the last day. Hey, you might just be right. We'll watch that. I certainly thought it was going to be earlier, and so we'll see how that gets on. And hey, the price is going up there. Nice little green candles on the Hex price. Nice. And 30th December, 27%. 29th of December, 10%, and 8% on the 28th. So we'll see who out of you is right on the day. It's going to be pretty soon in any case. And I think I'm still holding on to the fact it should be earlier. So we'll see. Let's say the 29th now. Let's see the 29th, I think. So we'll watch out. And Hex Jane says thank you. Hamad says thanks. And of course, John Carrera. Hey, Hex Token channel member. Very big shout out to you, John. You're the man, bro. Hey, appreciate that. And Mike, of course. So Mike as well. Hey, Hamid, I like those. Nice hearts out to the community. And of course, Mike says, thanks for your consistency in your daily streams. Hey, no problem, Mike. I do enjoy it. And we're on a fun journey, man. I'm telling you, it's going to be fantastic. We're in the gold standard projects on crypto. Just remember that we're in the gold standard ones. And Richard is the man. He knows how to create the gold standard projects in crypto. And they are game changers. They're game changers. And some of the keys he has, of course, circulating supply is one of the big focuses that he has. So very, very cool. Hey, Omni Chronicles in-house. I like your channel. Nice use of polls. Hey, thanks for that, Omni. I do like the polls. I think they're pretty cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm going to sign off for now. And let me just post some little cool emojis here. Bam, bam, and bam. Let me get in there. And hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, hit the bell. Catch me tomorrow for the daily vid. And of course, I'll do another live stream. I'm also going to be doing 1 or 2 specialty videos if I get time. There's a couple of topics I really want to cover in depth, so I'll try and get to those as well. Take care out there. The sacrifice is coming soon. Get yourself ready. Have your wallet ready. Make sure you're always top notch. Always protect yourself with security, and decide how much USDC you're wanting to play and to plan for, and also just get ready for that, because it's going to be pretty cool. Always use official sites, of course. Richard Hart is the man. Go from those sites and make sure you're always on official sites. Very, very cool. All right, I think that's where we're going. Hey, Valdis says sub from me. Hey, Valdis. Very cool. Thanks for that. And we got Dingo Wolf's got the wink in. Very, very nice. All right, I think it's an hour and 20, hour and 21 minutes, hour and 22 minutes. I've just busted my time, but you know how we roll. Here we are, the Hex price 29.1, and we're going to watch that over the next wee while. Don't forget to try and check out Kinetic's video. I think that could be very insightful around the HexScale stuff. He may drop us a few hints there as well. So, but I think they're probably going to look to launch in the new year at this stage, but we'll watch him and see what he says. All right, I think I'm ending up here. All right, bye for now. Take care.